And good morning. We're back here. A little bit of snow off and on today across central Vermont, but it is Monday. And welcome to Aired Out. We've already got Michael Deering, who's, look at this, within seconds here, Cody. We got Michael Deering coming in. We appreciate your eyes and ears, and thank you so much. You've got the Aired Out podcast live from the ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street in Barre. Cody Morrison sitting right next to me from Barre Area Development. How are you?
I am wonderful.
It helps if I turn your mic on. There, you're good. You're live.
Well, thank you for turning my mic on today.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah, good morning.
Happy freaking Monday.
Awesome day today. Happy Daylight Savings Time.
Yes,
day.
And today is Pi Day, the annual celebration of the mathematical, what is it, the equation, I guess. 3.141569? I can't remember. It goes on from there.
I'm going to let you figure this one out.
There's
I
actually
do enough math.
There's actually more than 62 trillion digits that follow after the 3.14. But anyway, before I forget, don't forget, tonight, I won't forget, Barry Beat, 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. on this Monday evening.
Yep, Barry Beat, 7 o'clock. It's a great show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They do a fantastic job, and they get into it big time. Where were you last night when the news broke about Tom Brady returning to the Buccaneers? Did it just lambaste you, or were you able to take the news okay?
It was going to happen.
Really?
Oh, yeah, a guy like that. I mean, I'm sure he used it as leverage to some extent. I mean, he's been saying that he wanted to play until he was 45 for how many years now?
That's disappointing, man. I mean, come on.
I mean, he probably, when I say leverage, I don't mean it in a contractual sense. The man has more money than you and I would ever know what to do with, but
yeah.
I understand that, like, following their last loss, he had some gripes about how the Buccaneers ran their organization.
Right.
So I'm sure he brought the Patriot way a little bit to Tampa Bay as an incentive to unretire.
Do you think they've had some cups of coffee here over the last couple of weeks?
Tom Brady? I don't even know. I don't think he drinks coffee.
You know what I mean. Not literally, figuratively. With the powers that be, I'm sure. I'm not surprised. That part doesn't surprise me, but I don't know. It's just, come on. And like these huge rock bands that say they're gonna retire and they're done, and then they resurrect themselves a couple of years later. Look at Garth Brooks.
I mean, I have nothing. I have no problem with that because that means we still get awesome music.
Well, that's true. But ticket sales go up. Anyway.
Hey, that's fine.
Welcome, buddy. How are you, man? What's going on?
Oh, I am awesome. I am a big supporter of the clocks being turned ahead an hour and it being lighter out later in the day.
Right. Well, you're a farm boy.
Yeah, I also hate that it gets dark at 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's I'm an absolutist when it comes to hating early.
Yeah.
Hating when it gets dark early. So from here on out, I'm probably going to be in like a permanently good mood until like November when it starts getting chilly and nasty out again.
We have a new work week in front of us. We call this the Barre Business Hour with Cody Morrison, the executive director of our nonprofit Barre Area Development, a man who is a liaison between the local business community as well as our city and Barre Town.
Yep. So our job is to try to translate government to businesses and translate business to governments.
Yep.
And
support opportunities for economic growth and development, and to get more people talking about some exciting economic growth that we've had.
Oh, absolutely, and is to no conversation on Tom Brady should be had without conversation of the Spice Milan. Michael Booten. I don't get that reference. I don't know. I remember he was an UGG model at one point, though. I do remember that. But like you mentioned, trying to get people involved in this process. Every show when we start, I always try to put a couple links to the chat about a couple of business programs. So any business owner or nonprofit owner that watches today will see a link to the Embrace Grant program and a link to the Community Navigator Pilot program. Those are the $5,000 mini grants for businesses and for nonprofits. The Embrace Grant is just for businesses, but repetition.
We've talked about that so much.
Yep, and repetition is learning, so I figure eventually it'll stick in someone's brain, and then they'll tell their friend about it, and then they'll tell their friend about it, and then they'll go and apply. And if that means that somebody... South Park reference. I missed a South Park reference.
I don't know.
Bootin'. But our position is... If somebody hears me talk about these two business grant programs week after week, they'll remember it, and then our buddy Rex Thompson or somebody might go and apply for it, and if that helps them grow his business, we've done our job.
Yeah.
But one big thing that has been circulating around the headlines that I think can take a little dissemination here is some people saw in the news recently about how there's a bunch of money coming to Vermont randomly. $167 million right here in Vermont Business Magazine. And I've had the question, where is that all going to go? How did that all get here? Is that going to be lining pockets? Is that going to be doing whatever it is? So that money is coming to Vermont through something called the Congressional Directed Spending Request process.
Yes.
So also known as earmarks. We touched on that a little bit last week, but this is a process in where communities, like municipalities, nonprofits, state governments, schools, basically everyone but a for-profit business or a civic group that doesn't have an incorporation, like think of like a Rotary Club if it didn't have their 501c3 status or something like that. Unofficial groups can put in for projects or for programs. They can submit these through our congressional delegation. So Senators Welch, or that'll be next year. Senator Sanders and Leahy and Congressman Welch.
This is not ARPA.
No, this is not ARPA. This is different. So they can submit, or we can submit projects through our federal offices, and they can put them into the budget or into a federal spending bill, and then that officially becomes part of that spending bill. Again, whether it's a standalone bill or whether it's part of the annual federal budget. And this is a practice that was outlawed about a dozen years ago or so, but Senator Leahy brought it back. He's the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, which is a very influential position down in Washington.
Yeah, can't even imagine.
So just for scale, out of that $167 million, I think Welch brought in somewhere around $8 million. Sanders brought in somewhere around 30 some odd million, and Leahy brought in the last $130 million. Which is just an absolutely massive number to bring in.
It is.
However, though, some good news. I've been asked, where is that money going to go specifically? What would a project look like? One announcement that we made on our social media account, we found out late last week. Part of that money is actually going to go to North Main Street in Barre. So that
How so?
So that North Main Street wastewater pump station up by the Berlin Town line past the Granite Museum, we helped get the Northern Borders grant for it last year, but we also submitted another funding request through Senator Sanders' office for another $143,000 from the federal government. I think it's funneled down through the Department of Interior, and that will help for those renovations and for those repairs. And so that's a good example of your government working, your federal government meeting the needs of a local community. We worked on this project. We submitted 2 funding requests last year through it. We found out about getting the first one back in the fall, and now we're hearing about the second one. So that's a little over $250,000 the feds are kicking in for this project, which is awesome. Which we've gone over it before. I won't bore everyone with on the nuances of municipal infrastructure, but it's important. It's more money that the citizens of Barre City, the property taxpayers, aren't going to have to pay for. I mean, the costs certainly have risen since last May, since last summer. So how much of that won't cancel out the inflation from last year? I don't know right off the top of my head, but it's a huge win for the city. But with that, we touched on it a little bit last week, but these earmark deadlines and this application process is open again. So Senator Leahy is accepting requests for projects through the end of the week. And Senator Sanders is through April 8th. And I'm not sure about Welch yet. I haven't checked his site. But these would be, I believe, projects that would be in the fiscal year 2023 federal budget. Okay. And so it's not like so this isn't like an extra $140K is going to get put into USDA for us to maybe apply for it again. No, this is money that's directly going to be coming to Barre because we got it approved through, we essentially applied through Senator Sanders' office instead of applying to the federal agency, the ABC acronym, federal agency. And the rationale, again, this was a practice that was banned back a dozen years ago or so, but this was brought back by Senator Leahy just on the assumption that federal agencies and federal bureaucrats don't really know the needs of a community, whereas a Senate office, those that have field representatives, those that work hand in hand with the community, are far more aware of what the needs of a community are. So it's a way for nonprofits, for schools, for municipalities, and the like to really address an urgent need within their community. A few other cool things that got funded through this process. The National Farm to School Institute got $5 million for technical and practical assistance to farm to school programs in Vermont. The Bennington Readiness Center, they're going to replace the 100-year-old Vermont National Guard Readiness Center in Bennington.
You said 167 mil?
Yep. The Church Street Marketplace, pedestrian improvements, $1 million there. Aviation Technical Center at the Burlington Tech Center, $10 million for that project. Recovery and economic resiliency loans through the Vermont Center of Emerging Technology, that was $9 million. So, while these are essentially public sector dollars, a lot of this money is going to trickle down into the private sector and is going to have some private sector benefit. So with the Aviation Tech Center, they have the airport right there up in Burlington. Presumably this would, and I'm not terribly familiar with this program up there, but with the Aviation Tech Center, I would assume that some of that would include job training for those wanting to get into the aviation industry. So that's something that would help with workforce development and workforce shortages. So there are a lot of creative ways that communities have been able to use this money. So right now I've been working with the city and I've reached out to the town as well about potential requests for projects that they would want to do. A couple that we're looking at potentially, the Route 302 water main project. A lot of Barre City gets its water from the town of Orange, actually, from the Orange Reservoir, and that water flows downhill. And a lot of that water also gets into Barre town. The water from
it's like a 100-year-old line too.
And the water that I shower in and I drink every day in my apartment over in East Barre, that comes from that line. So there's some projects, some improvements that need to be done with the water main up there. So we're looking at potentially putting in for that, and also looking at potentially making some improvements down to the wastewater treatment plant down here in Barre City. So there are a few opportunities. There are a few different ways that we're going to be able to look at this and potentially use Leahy's willingness to work with us. And
Lucas has spoken of this a lot over the last, year especially, that hopefully this is, once this stuff starts happening, we might see some lower water and sewer rates here in the Granite City, which would be nice.
Yeah,
because they're high,
and there is the possibility for that. I don't want to say definitively, but at the very least, this would like little projects like this would prevent the share that the local taxpayer would have in maintaining those systems. And we all pay our property taxes anyway. We all pay. If anybody is hooked up to public water or sewer, you're paying your water and sewer rates based off of usage.
Sure.
A lot of those funds, a lot of the revenue that the city and the town generate through that, just goes into maintenance.
Yeah. Just your regular base rate.
Yeah, and in the Barre community, we have a lot of water sewer maintenance issues that a lot of communities in the Northeast have. We had a big industry that was built up at one point. Back in the 50s and 60s was pretty much when Barre's granite industry peaked, and then as we went through economic decline gradually, then there's a smaller tax base to be able to maintain those systems. So gradually, some of those systems get proactive replacement becomes maintenance, and so on and so forth. And a lot of communities throughout the Northeast and the Rust Belt have that same issue. This isn't a Barre thing, but I think thankfully we have strong representation in Washington that's able to help us see different kinds of funds and see creative funding solutions just to improve some of those systems, just so government can do its basic task of performing basic services for people in a safe and effective manner.
Wow. Listen, I forgot. Get over on that microphone, honey, please. I forgot that it's Raylene's birthday this morning, and here I am.
Who cares?
Get that mic. Get that mic. This is important. Here I am this morning talking about this mathematical bullshit pie, and forgetting that it's Raylene's birthday today, which is, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is a
50. You can say it.
Well, I wasn't going to say
It's
it.
50. You can say it.
All
it's
right.
okay. I'm okay with it.
All right.
Yeah.
I was going to say
50's
40.
okay.
I was going to
You
say
know.
a monumental that you finally hit 40, but
No,
that's
I'm
all
not.
right.
I'm not afraid to be 50. It's okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unlike so many other people.
Yeah. But somebody did say that they said surprise, and I said no surprises because at my age, surprises create heart attacks. So no surprises.
No
But
surprises.
Yes, it is, and thank you,
All right.
everyone, very much.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank
We're
you,
going out for
Cody.
lunch today, just so you know.
All right.
All right. And Michael, Raylene she's going to have a good day today. She doesn't know it yet, but she's going to. Michael just said, fun fact, it's my understanding that the base rate was created due to the granite sheds. Interesting. Yeah, because at the time, the granite sheds used a boatload of water. So
Okay, well, that makes sense.
yeah, very interesting. You always learn something new from Booton.
Yep. So we're hard at work to try to identify projects in the community to put in for these earmark requests, just so we can leverage the relationships and the abilities, the networks and the capacities of our federal delegation to get these dollars from Washington. That's why we elect these people. So this is a good way to put them to work.
So how do you find out about this stuff? I mean, how are you governing all of this information?
So I found out about it through a phone call with Scott McLaughlin of the Granite Museum. They're working on creating their design arts program. So him and I have been in pretty close contact over the past 2 months, just regarding the equipment needs that they have and what they're going to need to launch their program and how we can play a hand in helping secure funds or anything that we can do. But we just happened to be talking one day, and one of us said, "Oh, it'd be great if earmarks are back open."
Yeah.
So we're on the phone, and while we're talking, I'm just like, "Okay, I'm going to go online on Leahy's website." Then all of a sudden, I see that, lo and behold, they are accepting funding requests, and we had about a week to put it in, which that deadline has been since extended. But once I found out that little bit of information, I think I called the city manager. I called other people around, wrote an email to every elected official in both Barries, and let them all know that this or sent a huge email out to a lot of people in the nonprofit and the public sector world and schools to let them know that, hey, this money is out there and available. We'll help. Letters of support, identifying projects. We've been in contact with Senator Leahy's office since. I have to make a call to Senator Sanders' office just to see what types of projects that they're going to be looking for. So there are a few that,
wow, dude.
So and one analogy I use is that there's money falling from the sky, so we're just trying to grab the bucket. We're trying to grab Barry's bucket and try to catch it wherever we can.
Well, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. Thank God for you. I mean, you're doing that. I mean, that's so great. We're so lucky to have you.
And it's great that we have willing and proactive people over at the city, the town, and in our nonprofit sector and our schools here as well. There's a lot of willing people that are willing to mobilize very quickly, which is awesome. We spent probably 2 hours or so talking with Public Works in the city manager's office and an engineer on Friday, just narrowing down the projects, the whole list of infrastructure projects that we have, and just trying to narrow those down based off of what Senator Leahy's office wants to see, what the feds want to see, what we have ready that's here at Barrie. So we're always trying to fit a square peg through a round hole. But what we try to do at Barre Area Development is we try to take that square peg and we try to kind of chisel off, round out some of the edges, just so we can take something, a huge initiative that another organization has, and we can just try to push it across the finish line.
Right. Listen, I know that this doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to do with Barre Area Development, but it's worth mentioning, and we've talked about it in the past. I saw a lot of complaining over the weekend on social media about the price of gas and a cap at how much gas you can get, a limit to how much gas you can get.
Well, so you say that doesn't really relate to us too much, but it actually does. That's
my point, is that it does come back.
Yeah, because that slows down consumer activity. Because you may have the sudden increase in gas prices may cause somebody to not go out to dinner one night. They may not go out to dinner one night, which hurts our restaurants. They may decide to go to Walmart to buy a product instead of going to Nelson's Hardware.
That's right.
Just so they can maybe save a buck or two, and so the big box store will get the money instead of our downtown. Or people may decide that they may not want to take that road trip sometime in April or May to go see our Hope Cemetery or to go up on a Rock of Ages quarry tour.
People are pinching.
Oh, absolutely. And the price of gas, the average price of gas is up 60 cents or something in the last 70 cents in the last month. While Russia does account for a small percentage of the U.S.'s current oil demands, I've got to give credit to the administration for seeking alternative oil suppliers. So we've in the last week or so, we started talking with Venezuela. So one thing you may see, I believe after their talks, we had two political prisoners that were released by Venezuela as a sign of goodwill from the Maduro regime. So one thing you may start seeing before a couple weeks ago, how Venezuela was portrayed and how Venezuela may be portrayed now kind of going forward. By the mainstream media and popular opinion. So now Venezuela may become more of a partner, and I think wants to produce 400,000 barrels of oil a day for distribution, which I think it's Saudi Arabia and Venezuela have the world's largest reserves of petroleum. And I know Azerbaijan, another country in West Asia, is a big natural gas producer. I think they border Georgia. They're on the Caspian Sea there. They're another post-Soviet, or they're another former Soviet state. They're looking at increasing their production.
Yeah.
And they can ship directly to Europe without having to go through Russia. Ultimately, they'd have to go through Turkey and through the Mediterranean. But you know, if that pipeline infrastructure is in place, that'll help supplement Europe a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think, and I know Saudi Arabia, from what I understand, they weren't really willing to play ball and weren't really willing to increase oil production, which makes sense to a certain extent. An oil producing company, or any, like Barry, for instance, the price of granite being higher on the world market benefits Barry.
Yeah.
So think of the same way in a country like Saudi Arabia. The price of oil being high benefits their national economy. But you are seeing a few other players get into the mix here for global oil production. So what effect that will have at the pump? What effect Vermonters will see at the pump? Who knows? There's also the idea of price gouging amongst some companies as well. But how this impacts Barry, though, our natural resource, our granite, is shipped via train, and it's also shipped via Bellavance, companies like Bellavance.
Yeah.
So diesel's is about $5 a gallon now.
Yeah.
And a tractor trailer gets like 4 miles a gallon or something.
Yeah. Right.
So the price of, just when we were starting to see supply chain issues kind of benefit the local economy, now we have an extra cost on top of that, which that doesn't mean that the goods from overseas aren't also going to increase in price. So do they cancel each other out? I'm not sure.
Long time residual effect here. Long time.
Yep. Long time effect. So
and things are just getting hotter and hotter and hotter over there. Just watching some of the news reports last night, you keep hearing this language of World War III and countries having to decide which team they're going to be on, and people are drawing lines. Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm starting to get worried about European food production because a lot of that. I mean, what you need, as someone that grew up growing crops for agriculture production as a living,
right?
I can say with full confidence, you need to have undisrupted land for a long time to be able to grow things. So if you have tanks and you have, if the water infrastructure is disrupted, you're not going to be able to water those crops. Pesticides, a lot of the tractors are being used to, and I say it's tongue in cheek, a lot of those tractors are being used to haul away Russian tanks.
If you think this isn't going to impact you here in little old small town Vermont, you're wrong.
Yep. And I know Russia has, I think, asked China for military assistance. They're opening their ranks to foreign fighters, mercenaries from Syria. So this thing is definitely gonna continue to get worse before it gets better.
Speaking of gas, and I don't know if you got a chance to. Did you see the podcast that I did with Jay Young?
I did not. No, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but no, I was busy
oil and gas expert out of Texas. He's published a couple of books, but he was saying that the United States burns through just over, it's like 21.5 on average million barrels a day. Times 7 days a week, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot of oil.
Oh, absolutely. But that sounds pretty crazy to us, like just sitting here, you and I just shooting the breeze.
Right. We're buying most of it from elsewhere.
Yeah, we're buying a lot of it. Canada has a lot of it. We have a lot of it as well. But there's also a residual effect with the development of those other countries that we get from importing that oil. We're now seeing kind of the downside of that with Russia having a reasonably developed economy. However, 30 years of progress has been shattered in the last 2 weeks. You're here every day. You're hearing reports of more companies pulling out of Russia.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Instagram.
I can't keep up with them.
Instagram influencers all across the motherland are upset because Instagram, Meta is, Meta being the Facebook parent company, is pulling out.
Apple too.
Apple too.
Google. The list goes on.
Yeah. So again, 30 years of post-Soviet progress that's been made has really just been shattered.
Yeah.
But I'm still curious to see what this will mean for the defense industry. And with Europe starting to rearm, there are some regulations regarding our domestic defense industry for European purchasers, but we have a lot of products and there are a lot of parts that are made here that will go into like helicopters and things that a company like BAE Systems out of New Hampshire would make that is originally a British company that may see its way over there.
Wow, interesting.
So, yeah, I'll be very curious to see how this will bode for our defense industry. But it seems like people are, no matter what happens in the world, no matter what happens on the global stage, there's always going to be a need for things to be made.
That's right.
No matter what they're used for, if they're used for weapons, they're used for houses, they're used for packaging, whatever it is. Things are always going to have to get from one place to another, and things are always going to have to be made, manufactured, and refined.
Yeah.
So hopefully that is good for our granite industry.
Yeah.
We have 4,500 years of granite left in the ground. So 4,500 years
left.
Yep. Yep. Worth of granite still in the ground here in Barre. And as long as we keep pulling it out of the ground and chiseling it, it's always going to need to get somewhere. So
sure.
Companies like Bellavance Trucking will be around for a while, and companies like Rock of Ages. So hopefully this doesn't impact the local economy too much beyond that.
You've had some real excitement over the last month or two about Barre kind of turning into that much more of a manufacturing hub. The manufacturing industry is growing, and there's a lot of interest right now in the Granite City.
Yep, and I think we have our Barre Rock Solid marketing campaign. So we've been
Barre Town too.
So we've been hard at work the last couple of years, really getting getting the word out about Barre. We have our digital welcome packet, which is barrevt.com, which will show everyone the who, what, where, when, why is about Barre. But another thing that Barre is well positioned to take advantage of with the supply chain issues. I think you're going to continue to see companies, even with global unrest, continue to see companies wanting to localize their supply chains and buy products closer to where they do their business. So not only does that mean that more things are going to be made around here, but you're also going to have more companies that are going to be looking to ship things and set up distribution centers and things like that closer to here. And does that mean, hauling a product from, we'll get a company here because they want to haul something from Barre to Burlington? Maybe, but it also means that we may get a company here, or we may see a part that some bigger company buys that's made here in Barre may get busier because a company wants to expand their presence in the Northeast market.
Right.
You also may see Canadian companies, those just over the border, want to look at the Vermont market in the Northeast a little more closely, just so they can have a little closer access to the U.S. market. It's a lot easier to do business with the federal government. There are many, the federal government is not a manufacturing plant. All those tanks, all those parts, all those USPS mail trucks, all those internet servers, things like that. A lot of those are built and maintained by private companies. Again, the federal government is not a factory, so they depend on companies right here in downtowns throughout the country.
That's right.
To produce those things. So it's easier if you're a Canadian company and you want to sell to the U.S. federal government. It's a lot easier to do it if you have a presence in the U.S. And we're well positioned right here in Barre because we're very close to Montreal, and we're also close to the seaports in New Haven and in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and in Portland and in New York. So we're in the middle of a lot of right, exactly. So I think as supply chains continue to localize, that's one thing that Barry's gonna see a lot of brighter days ahead because of that. And we can point to kind of the decline in the middle of the last century. The decline of Barre's granite industry can in part be pointed to the extending of those supply chains.
Sure.
In the post-war world, as Europe and as other parts of the U.S. Started to develop economically. All of a sudden, you had granite setters. More throughout the U.S. start to develop. Silver Spring, Colorado, Minnesota, Georgia, Italy, Brazil, Italy. I already said Italy. India and China. But as it gets more expensive to get those goods overseas, and people continue to like the quality of the granite and the quality of the craftsmanship here from Barre, there's always going to be a market for it.
Sure. I was chatting with Barstow Construction this morning about the cost of materials, and there's a lot of chatter right now. As soon as we get these warm temperatures, and we got snow that's melting, and we have discussions of corned beef and cabbage and St. Patty's Day around the corner and maybe Easter, people are starting to think about what they need to do at their house. If it's a new deck, if they need to do some improvements. Part of the discussion that we had briefly this morning was the cost of roofing. There's a season for materials, and roofing always goes up in usually the month of April, but definitely in the spring. Says Barstow Construction, and this is the time to start thinking about these things and getting your bids in and getting it all figured out and budgeting for this now, not when it gets warm, but now. This Contractors Bill, what are you hearing about this?
Yeah, so the governor vetoed the Contractors Bill back in late January. So what that would have done was it would have created a registry for contractors for smaller jobs. I believe the threshold was $3,000.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what that would have done in the governor's position was it would have helped it would have hurt smaller contractors that are looking to do those jobs. It would have made it more expensive for those smaller businesses. It might have even driven some of them out, knowing that they would have to register with the state. Ultimately, it would increase that. It'd pass on that cost to consumers. And I think right now with the workforce shortage that we have right now, it's hard to find contractors anyway for big jobs, small jobs. So that just
That's right.
The governor's position. I would think many in the general contracting community would agree that it just adds another additional regulation, another additional fee, and another additional hurdle to being able to get work done. Every day you see on Front Porch Forum, it seems like somebody's looking for a handyman, somebody's looking for a contractor to do a small job every day. So that's something that would have made it slightly more expensive, slightly more difficult. And I think right now, with a lot of the money that's going to be coming out through ARPA and the red hot economy that we still do have, freeing our workforce, allowing people to go out and hire for professional services, for even small jobs, anything that we can do to make that more expedient and to make that easier to do is just going to accelerate our recovery that much faster.
And you can cook through 3K in a matter of hours.
Yeah, blink, and you've already spent $3,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What else do you have for us today?
Well, another grant that's going to be coming up on the community side. There's a Better Places Downtown Beautification Grant Program that's available through the state. I think it's through the state's Arts Council. Basically, what that is...
What's it called?
Better Places. So that is meant to advance what is referred to in the planning and development world as placemaking. In layman's terms, beautification, public art. So if the city, the town, Studio Place Arts, the Barre Partnership, the Granite Museum, or any one of these organizations wanted to take on a public arts type project. So let's say in the Pearl Street Pedway, if there were to be a mural, the piano that you see out on a lot of main streets, if they're public art, it could take many different forms. This is a program that will help fund those downtown placemaking or downtown beautification projects. They really want you to use local artists. So maybe Arcana down in Metro Way, or any other artist that's around here. But what they want is the program this year. That was actually the first grant that I worked with Tracy Lewis of the Bear Partnership on. We put in for it for improvements to the Pearl Street Pedway. We ultimately didn't get it, but we at least got the ball rolling on that. But
Pedway looks freaking great, though.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be awesome this summer. We've got Pearl Street Pizza there. Farmers markets are going to be coming back soon. This summer is going to be great in the Pedway. I can't wait to see it.
Heritage Festival
Is going to be coming. You're going to have food trucks in the Common on food trucks and live music. That's going to be coming back. We really have the first I don't want to say post-COVID, but I think this is the first real summer since 2019 where people have been comfortable to go out. When I was at the basketball game at the auditorium a few weeks ago, there had to have been 500 people in there, sitting neck to neck, very close. It was good to see. But anyways, with this program, they want crowdfunding. So the state wants you to use their software to solicit small dollar donations to match, I think, to cover like 33% of the project cost, and then the state will kick in the rest of it, which gets more people involved in the process. But that's one program that Tracy and I have talked about a little bit, and we're getting some more information. We're just seeing what the best way to proceed on making some improvements and beautification related improvements could be in our downtown.
I paid you a visit the other day in the Blanchard block, and every time I go in there, which isn't that often, but you're in there every day. Obviously, your office is in there.
Yep.
I'm just blown away at how beautiful that the inside of that building is.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure you feel the same way. In the Concord Group, what a new home for those guys. Yep. My God. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Yep. So that's the insurance company that just recently moved to our downtown.
Yeah.
They had a big building up in Berlin, up on Airport Road. And it's an example of a company looking to downsize their physical footprint in the COVID era. So they were able to bring about 5 jobs to our downtown, middle upper income jobs.
Yeah.
And they're able to fill that third floor space, which has been vacant for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it's good. It's very positive momentum.
And there's more spaces available too.
Yeah, but
block.
They're filling up quickly though.
Yeah,
they're filling up quickly. There's not. I want to say there's only like 2 or 3 spaces left in there out of 20 or so.
Yeah.
Out of 20 or so.
Your office though is so impressive. I mean, with the huge open bar. And the hot tub and everything. The velvet couches. I mean, everything is just amazing to see.
I wish.
But brother, you've got the absolute bird's eye view of City Hall Park. You got to get a webcam rigged up on your window.
Yeah, maybe. It is pretty cool during election season when people will be over at the monument, will be holding signs. I can see, you can usually tell what group is out. The local Democrats will be out there usually on Thursdays, and the local Republicans will be out there on Fridays. But
just to see the traffic, not only the foot traffic, but just, I mean, you're right there at the in the nucleus.
Oh, absolutely. And it's great being right next to City Hall as well.
Yeah.
But that building was a furniture store on the main floor before. Was it apartments above or what? I mean, this was the entire thing was furniture. Okay, yeah, this was way before my time.
Well, now that Raylene's 50, obviously she ought to know this. I mean, going back, she could be our historian. Yeah. It's just such a great building. I mean, you could anyway. I'd love to see a webcam if it's part of the budget.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
the BADC.
One thing that was cool back during the Veterans Day parade, when everyone congregated right in front of the monument there, and Lucas, the former mayor, gave his speech.
Sure.
Right before that, I was standing next to Shannon Alexander. We're actually in like the middle of the road. I think I was standing next to Tom, and
She doesn't stand still for long, though.
no. Only as long as she needs to click the button and take her
right.
picture and get the right shot. But
Yeah.
I had a light bulb moment when I was standing down there, and I said, "Shannon, come on up." So we ran up to my office and we opened the window, and Shannon was able to get some great aerial shots of the speech and the whole crowd there, the couple hundred people that gathered for the Veterans Day, for the end of the Veterans Day parade. And I actually got a picture of her like sitting outside of the window with her camera, getting a bird's eye view angle shot of the whole event. It was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah. We're so blessed to have her, man. She's so good. My God.
Oh, absolutely. She helps tell Barry's story, and she takes a huge load off my plate and Tracy's plate as well.
Jim and Larissa Haas, Rise Up Bakery. I'm going to be paying them a visit at some point real soon. Probably not today, but maybe tomorrow.
Yep. But
real soon. Got to get over there.
Yeah,
and check them out.
Great people, great bread.
Right behind the Labor Hall.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right over on Granite Street.
We're going to get some better visibility for signage for them.
They're working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're wonderful people, and they've got. You were telling me they've got roots from Ukraine.
Yep. So Larissa is a native Ukrainian, and Jim lived there for 28 years, I want to say.
Wow.
But he's from Vermont originally, so they came back within the last few years.
Okay. I was checking them out online. Got to get over there. What a great place to have right here.
Oh, for sure.
In Barre.
Yep.
Anything else?
I think that's all I got for this week.
All right. Next week. We're working on it already.
Yep.
We'll have and let's sneak another guest in here soon, man. Would love to.
Yeah. There's somebody I want to bring in for next week, so we'll see if we can coordinate it before we make an announcement.
We always want to say that we appreciate all the hard work that you do, your continued support and sponsorship of our podcast and what we do here at Aired Out. To have the BADC on board with us is massive for us, and we just want to extend, again, thanks to you for always bringing what you bring, what you know, to the microphones every Monday morning at 9 o'clock. Yeah. And I'll tell you, folks, if you're just learning about this now, do spread the word. Tell your friends. Follow the page. Let them know. What's that now?
Barry Beat, 7 o'clock.
Yes. Barry Beat, 7 o'clock.
Don't forget, Barry Beat, 7 o'clock tonight.
And thanks for working with us to help kick off the work week. It's a awesome way to start the week. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. We get a lot of interaction on this page. I've had a fair amount of people that have reached out to me because they've watched the show, and we've been able to connect with a few business owners in the community because of it. But we do this for everyone that's listening today and that watches our show live, that comments, that tells their friends. Mm-hmm. We do this for the community, so we really appreciate everyone that tunes in.
Yep. We're always live. We're never edited, and we just tip our hat to Barre Area Development. And thank you again, Cody.
Thank you.
All right. And happy Monday to you. That's it. Aired Out Podcast. We're going to be back at 1 o'clock with Josh and Jackie from Gustos. They got also one of our presenting sponsors, and they've got some great things coming up. Not only great food, but always a very active entertainment schedule over there. Thanks for catching the Aired Out Podcast live from the ASB Financial Studios and Fly on the Wall Productions, Main Street in Barre. And thanks to all of our presenting sponsors, which are on your screen right now.